Before we start today's session, I would like to acknowledge that the District of Saanich lies within the traditional territories of the Lakwangan peoples, represented by the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, and the Saanich peoples, represented by the Sarlip, Paquachin, Sayot, Saikum, and Malahat nations. The First Peoples have been here since time immemorial, and their history in this area is long and rich. Once again, welcome everyone. My name is Steffi Sunny, and I'm the planner who's working alongside with our project manager, Alana McDonough. Today, we also have amidst us Cam Scott, manager community planning, Kathleen Gallagher, our senior transportation planner, and Thomas Kemster, another planner who will be taking care of the technical side of today's webinar. Just to make a note, please note that this webinar is being recorded. So by continuing to be in the meeting, you're consenting to be recorded. And this recording will be posted on the webpage. Only the webinar portion will be published. The live Q&A portion will not be posted. Instead, we'll have a document with all the questions and answers that we're discussing today in our session. Participants' microphone and camera will be disabled during the presentation and a Q&A session. Participants are encouraged to use the Q&A feature to enter their questions and to ensure response. Please note that the District of Saanich is a respectful workplace, and a respected conduct is expected from all participants in this webinar. So hoping for a fruitful conversation this evening. So on your screen to the top left, you'll see a Q&A function. So you can type in your questions. Coming to the project background, the purpose of this webinar is to provide an overview of the draft Tillicum Burnside Plan and provide an opportunity for any questions related to this plan. Please note that this is the first draft of the plan, and we're actively seeking feedback from public, interest holders, and different groups in the next few weeks, which will further inform the draft plan. Moving on to the project background, Council endorsed the terms of reference in 2024. The terms of reference on this project sought to address the unique challenges of the neighborhood, provide guidance to develop a more compact built environment, to provide a diversity of housing near employment and transit investment, and to influence and guide the growth in the next 30 years. Moving on to the planning context. The official community plan is the primary planning and policy document. It includes overarching planning and policy framework for the district. It sets the long-term visions for the entire Saanich. So the OCP works together with other district plans, and the strategic goals introduced in the OCP is further implemented through the Tillicum Burnside Plan. These are to maintain the urban containment boundary, accommodating most new growth within primary growth areas, expanding housing diversity in neighborhoods, and making Saanich a 15-minute community. The goals and objectives and policy actions of the draft Tillicum Burnside Plan is informed by other parallel district, regional, and provincial initiatives, including Active Transportation Plan, Road Safety Action Plan, Biodiversity Conservation Strategy, Urban Forest Strategy, Climate Plan, etc. The OCP's vision for the primary growth areas are detailed and implemented through the Center Corridor and Village Plans. So the draft Tillicum Burnside Plan, which is a Center Corridor Village Plan, seeks to provide more detailed direction for how the primary growth areas will accommodate most of the Saanich's growth while creating sustainable, resilient community. Together, these goals provide an efficient use of land and resources and help create livable communities close to services, amenities, jobs, and prioritize access to transit and active transportation. Now, taking a closer look at the Center Corridor Village plan boundaries within Saanich on the map that you see on the screen, Tillicum Burnside CCV area is located in purple at the bottom along southwest direction. So the next two slides would provide a snapshot of the demographic and housing characteristics in Tillicum Burnside. The study area is compact, about 1.9 square kilometers, just over 7,000 residents, and close to 1,000 of those are youth. The study area have a slightly higher percentage of renters and lower ownership and higher rate of excess shelter cost, and those in the core housing need. For example, like 18.5% compared to Saanich as a whole, over 10%. The study area currently includes a diverse mix of housing types with an equal mix of single detached housing and low-rise apartments. It also have a notable share of non-market housing and affordable housing for its size. 40% of the building stock in the study area is over 65 years or older, which is significant and signals potential redevelopment and renewal. It also provides strong opportunities for coordinated infrastructure and mobility investments. Moving on to the whole Tillicum Burnside planning process. This started with the adoption of the terms of reference in 2024. Following that, we launched our first series of public engagement as part of our phase 2 concept development in 2025. Now we are at phase 4 of our draft plan refinement. Moving over to the summary of phase 2 engagement events. We invited community members to identify opportunities and challenges within the study area through a range of engagement events and received 168 inputs through workshops and webinars and 188 inputs through the online survey, combining other engagement events like information pop-ups, focus group discussions, workshops. In total, we received 874 inputs. And the inputs received during this phase helped inform the draft plan, land use and transportation policies, in addition to other technical analysis. The engagement activities welcomed input regarding the study area boundary, as well as the boundaries of the centers and villages. The image you see to the left was the initial study area boundary, which is same as the conceptual CCV map that you see in the official community plan. So based on the feedback and staff analysis, the boundaries were extended to include areas of the north of Hampton Park and east of Harriet Road. So you see the map to the right, that's the revised boundary of the study area. These additions were originally part of the Tillicum local area plan and were later transferred to the Uptown Douglas plan based on a 2016 direction to promote residential growth within Uptown. Inclusion of this area back into the Tillicum Burnside Plan area will support coordinated growth and enhance the Burnside Village concept and create a seamless transition to the City of Victoria. During the engagement events, participants expressed support for diverse housing types, especially townhomes, apartments, social housing, and family-sized homes, and support for housing in well-serviced areas along the corridors, accompanied by a diversity of businesses and services like cafes, restaurants, pubs, etc. Land use workshop activities and community surveys explored 3 growth scenarios. The center and village focus scenario, which concentrates higher density in centers and villages, received the strongest support, followed by development near park scenario. Also, a desire for improved public realm through plaza, street art, and improvement in tree canopy were expressed. Some of the other key themes that emerged during this engagement was a desire for implementation strategy to guide action and change, Tillicum Road beautification projects and actions that could improve Tillicum Corridor, Burnside Road improvements, safe and accessible connections within the study area. Overall, participants expressed support for increased density, provided it's accompanied by enhanced amenities and infrastructure to support the future growth. A lack of safe pedestrian infrastructure, especially the sidewalks and pedestrian crossings, was identified as a major challenge especially along Burnside Road. So participants emphasized the need to prioritize pedestrian safety through wide accessible sidewalks with curb ramps, improved connectivity, additional crosswalks, enhanced street lighting, street trees, and public art and furnishings. Participants also stressed the importance of improved transit services to support the anticipated growth of the neighborhood. The comments also recognized the existing high-value natural assets, including the Gorge Waterway as a defining and cherished feature of the study area, while also highlighting opportunities to improve public access to the waterfront. Feedback emphasized re-envisioning the area as a destination with a diverse mix of amenities, enhanced signage, wayfinding, and local servicing retail. Now moving on to the draft Tillicum Burnside Plan. The draft plan is guided by 4 goals, and these are identified through the terms of reference. So these goals reflect the plan's core focus, and these set the directions for the draft plan's policies and actions. And it also helps prioritize decisions on growth, investment, and implementation. These goals translate the official community plan's vision into a more ground-oriented change within the study area. So with land use, the goal is to implement the Center Corridor Village Growth Management Framework and to build complete communities. Transportation, the goal is to deliver complete streets in Tillicum Burnside area and improve connections for all modes with an emphasis on car-light living, safety, enjoyment, and efficiency. Housing, the goal is to provide for new housing within well-serviced areas with a focus on providing a diversity of housing options. Public realm and open space, the goal is to enhance the overall livability through providing community amenities and a network of connected open spaces. We have 6 key plan directions, and these are high-level guidance that sets the tone for what we are going to achieve and how the future decisions and investments could be prioritized. So first goal, key plan direction is designing welcoming and connected public spaces. What this means is prioritizing public realm and access to community gathering places and recreational facilities within the study area. The second direction is to revitalize Gorge and Burnside Village into dynamic local hubs that offers a mix of housing, shops, services, and public amenities to serve the needs of residents. The next direction is to renew Tillicum Burnside Center as a community anchor. And what this means is to strengthen the role of Tillicum Burnside Center as a focal point for community life. For example, by enhancing public facilities, expanding services, housing, promoting local employment, and creating inclusive spaces that bring the community together. Expanding housing diversity, this is to support housing options that meets the needs of residents of all life stages and abilities with a focus on diversity, accessibility, and housing choice. Honor First Nations and urban Indigenous people. This means to continue to foster relationship with First Nations and urban Indigenous peoples and to work collaboratively with them with a focus on reconciliation. Celebrating the Gorge waterfront. This is to ensure that development along Gorge waterfront prioritizes public access, ecological integrity, and placemaking. Moving on to proposed draft land use framework. Before we get into the future land use designation within the Tillicum Burnside area, I wanted to explain what the land use designations are. So top left circles illustrate the conceptual boundaries of the Tillicum Burnside CCV areas as shown in the OCP. With this draft plan, we identify parcel-specific land use direction that can be supported on parcels and areas within Tillicum Burnside area in the next 30 years. So it identifies future transportation improvements within Tillicum Burnside and plans for future parks and infrastructure improvements, among others. Future land use designation allows for a range of diverse uses within each designation. So this slide, I would just wanted to explain the difference between what does it mean, what's the difference between future land use designation and a zoning. A zoning is a regulatory tool allowing certain permitted uses and density within each zone. What that means is that a zoning bylaw regulates what can and cannot occur on a property, and it will have other additional rules related to setbacks, size, locations of buildings on a property, etc. Whereas the future land use designations allows for a range of uses within each designation in the next 30 years. So it's more of a vision in terms of what uses can be encouraged long term. Adopting this plan will not change the zoning of the property. For example, after the adoption of the plan, if a property owner is currently within, let's say, RS6 zone, which is single family dwelling, wants to build a single family dwelling or accessory buildings and structures, then the property owner can still do it under the existing zoning bylaw. And if a property owner wants to build a houseplex under the same zoning, under SSMUH, which is small scale multi-unit housing, they can still do that with the existing zoning bylaw. So no development will happen on a property unless the property owner decides to redevelop their property or sell their property to an interested developer. Future land use change would only happen if it were initiated by the property owner, and a formal application would be required, including a rezoning and obtaining a development permit application, etc., both of which will need council approval. So now moving on to the draft land use designations. As discussed in the previous slide, the future land use framework provides a long-term vision and will guide how land evolve to support housing diversity, economic vitality, and high-quality public realm. I will provide some highlights here, and in the next few slides, I'll go on to the greater detail on each of the center, corridor, and village areas, and what each designation means. So we have, you see the two blue circles here. So we have Saanich Transit-Oriented Area at Tillicum Burnside Center and provincially designated TOA at Uptown, which is just outside the study area boundary. The Tillicum Burnside Center is envisioned to be an inclusive mixed-use hub that integrates housing, community space, and retail, supported by frequent transit and nearby access to regional amenities. Beyond the Tillicum Burnside Center, the Gorge Village and Burnside Village present key opportunities to intensify and revitalize the neighborhood. Surrounding residential areas will play a vital role in delivering low to mid-rise housing, providing sensitive transitions to natural assets, and enabling connections to key community assets. Going into detail, what does a center core designation mean? So center core designation is mid-rise to high-rise, 6 to 18 story. And on larger sites, a range of building heights are desirable to enable transitions responding to multiple frontage contexts and site context. Offers higher densities to provide vibrant pedestrian-oriented spaces, open spaces, and high-quality urban design. So it basically supports multi-unit residential and commercial mixed use, including retail, office, hospitality, and public assembly with significant park open spaces. The center land use designation is mid-rise to high-rise, 6 to 12 story, and it provides a gradual transition between the center core and corridor by offering animated and walkable urban environment, providing continuation of significant employment, housing, opportunities, and also supported by high quality urban design and engaging public spaces. This supports multi-unit residential and commercial mixed use, including retail, office, with consideration of live-work units at grade, and also an integration of public open space on site. The next is corridor designation. These are low to mid-rise, 3 to 6 stories, primarily residential areas that offer a variety of housing options within walking distance to frequent transit and other destinations within and outside the Tillicum Burnside area. These areas is intended to have high quality urban design and public open space with limited local serving retail. And it supports predominantly multi-unit residential as well. Village land use designation is low to mid-rise, 5 to 6 stories, generally, but considerations of up to 8 stories on select sites in Burnside Village and Gorge Village, and then considerations for up to 11 stories on select sites in Gorge Village. I will talk in detail about these special sites in the coming slides. These are intended to be designed to incorporate high quality urban design and placemaking as well. These include multi-unit residential with commercial mixed use, integrated with parks and public open space. Mixed institutional lands provide community services, and these also support non-market housing and parks with consideration for commercial and social enterprises auxiliary uses. The height of this designation is dependent on the function of the site and will be determined in consideration of adjacent land uses. Apartment is low-rise, 3 to 4 story apartments that provide housing opportunities along the edges of the corridors, and they have limited opportunities for commercial mixed use. Urban townhome is low-rise, 3 stories, generally found in low-rise transition areas between the corridors and neighborhood apartments. These predominantly are multi-family residential with considerations of live-work units at grade. And lastly, we have park designation. One thing to note is that the areas where low-rise future land use designation is supported, that is urban townhome and apartment, the official community plan already supports this density, the policy 7.4.3, and the zoning in this area permits small-scale multi-unit housing. The plan also have specific properties for redevelopment, and these are called special sites. These are located within Tillicum Burnside Center, Burnside Village, Gorge Village, and Gorge Corridor. These have site-specific considerations due to their unique characteristics, strategic locations, environmental context, or like infrastructure constraints. Special sites typically meet one or both of the following criteria. One, they're larger development parcels that function as a cornerstone sites within the area and have the potential to advance multiple objectives and key directions of the plan. Two, they're directly influenced by significant natural assets, including the Gorge Waterway and Cuthbert Homes Park. Moving on to Tillicum Burnside Center. This is anchored by Tillicum Center Mall and GR like Perks Rec Center, and presents opportunities for significant new residential and employment growth supported by transit infrastructure. The map here shows future parcel-specific land use designation and special sites within the Tillicum Burnside Center. The Tillicum Burnside Center, it's also designated as a Saanich TOA, and will include a more integrated future transit exchange in this location. Some of the supporting policies, we have supporting policies for mixed use, including commercial, services, and residential. Policies supporting for family-oriented housing near Tillicum School, new hotel developments in Tillicum Burnside Center. Greatest density is proposed in the center core. And then there's potential for redevelopment to support transportation and land use goals for the area, especially this being a TOA, and then the location of the future transit exchange. There are 3 special sites within this area. One is the Tillicum Center Mall, and we have policies that support higher densities to help deliver the future transit exchange, streetscape improvements, open space, and public access. The second site is 306 Burnside Road, which is at the corner site, and we have policies that support higher building heights here, where public amenities can be delivered, active uses on the corner site as well, like cafes or retail. The third special site is the large parcel bordering the Trans-Canada Highway. We have draft policy that recognizes the future opportunities to support and deliver a wide mix of housing and some commercial on this site. And this is like future in the next 30 years. Um, Next, moving on to Tillicum Corridor. Tillicum Corridor consists of two areas located on either side of the Tillicum Burnside Center. And the corridor includes major community assets such as Hampton Park, Victoria Native Friendship Center, and it is within predominantly a low density residential context currently. And the future vision for Tillicum Corridor is intended to accommodate a mix of low to mid-rise development. The policies drafted for this area is intended to support low to mid-rise development, improve housing options, improve overall livability, especially with the redevelopment adjacent to Highway 1. And we do have policy that encourage ground floor commercial and public open space adjacent to Hampton Park. We have policies that supports family-oriented housing near Tillicum Community School and integration of non-market affordable housing on mixed institutional sites. Given the Battleford Avenue's adjacency to Highway 1, additional analysis identified the need for stronger measures to mitigate any noise and visual impact. So we do have policy supporting to provide that buffer along Battleford. Burnside Village borders City of Victoria and their future small urban village. And there's a huge potential to create a walkable, connected destination here. The existing small-scale retail and its proximity to Cabell Park, Rudd Park, and the surrounding residential fabric actually provides a strong foundation for the future growth. The map to the right, it highlights the future land use designation and special sites within Burnside Village. We have draft policies that encourage redevelopment to support mid-rise mixed-use buildings, low-rise apartments, stacked townhouses, and active ground floor commercial. We also have policy proposing a temporary closure along Cabal Street to accommodate public gathering and markets within the village, transforming the north end of Davian Street, south of Burnside Road, into an urban square plaza by eliminating vehicular traffic to and from Burnside Road. Businesses and amenities would be prioritized on Burnside Road and properties that wrap around onto side streets. The long-term vision for Burnside Village includes mid-rise mixed-use buildings, which is 6 to 8 story, low-rise apartments, and stacked townhomes for up to like 4 story. And this would create a seamless village area across the municipal boundary, especially with the small urban village designation towards the City of Victoria side. Burnside Village has two special sites. One is south of Burnside Road West. It presents opportunities to create a double fronting lot with active street uses on both Burnside and Cabell Park. And then we have a proposed multi-use pathway to access the park. The next special site is north of Burnside Road West, and this presents an opportunity for mixed-use residential, employment, and commercial uses, and a space for community plaza. So the map here highlights the future parcel land use designations within Burnside Corridor. Burnside Corridor is envisioned to transition to a people-oriented corridor with a focus on public realm, accessibility. This area is primarily characterized by a mix of low-rise apartment and single-family dwelling, and the draft policies for this area encourages creating opportunities for multi-generational housing, and it also supports a tapering of building heights from Burnside Road to the surrounding residential areas. And we do have policies encouraging to work towards filling the park gap by seeking opportunities for new infill parks and open spaces. So parcels along Battleford, Sims, Lurlin Avenue at the northeast edge of the sub-area are within the 400 meter, the provincially designated TOA, which is the Uptown Multimodal Transit Hub. So the provincial minimum density framework applies within this radius, allowing height and density of 6-story and 2.5 FAR for those properties. Other supporting policies is that we are encouraging an enhanced setback of 3 to 6 meter for properties fronting along Battleford to provide measures to lessen the impact of Highway 1, including noise attenuation and visual buffering. Gorge Village is one of Saanij's earliest residential neighborhoods, and it's valued for its proximity to the scenic Gorge Waterway and its direct access to the City of Victoria. So the map here to the right highlights the future land use designations and special sites within the Gorge Village. Future uses here will include multi-unit and mixed-use developments supporting diverse housing types and tenures, including rental and non-market housing. Some of the supporting policy is that encourages a mix of uses within village to meet the needs of all ages and life stages, including grocery stores, dining establishments, professional offices, social and medical services, childcare, and supportive housing. Designs active commercial frontages along Tillicum Road, Albina, and Gorge Road West to enhance the pedestrian interactions. And there's also a mid-block connection east-west to promote access to shops and services, and this is on the special site. The map here shows the future parcel-specific land use designations within the Gorge Corridor. So the Gorge Corridor currently hosts a mix of land uses, including residential, commercial, and parks. Much of the residential development is already a multifamily, but some buildings are aging and sites may be developed over time. The area is envisioned to strengthen the links to Gorge Waterway through redevelopment. We have some mixed densities already present here, so the policies encourage the continuation of that trend through redevelopment. We have special site here along the Gorge Corridor, which is GC1, which offers opportunity to improve public access to Gorge Waterway and complete a waterfront trail. We also have policies encouraging, again, a diversity of housing along the corridor and along the adjacent residential streets, including larger unit sizes and adaptable housing forms. There are there's one special site along the corridor and one special site within the Gorge Village. So the residential properties to the south of Gorge Road West are designated special site to reflect their importance in increasing a continuous pathway along the waterfront. And these properties have a slightly taller height, up to 8-story, to accommodate the negotiation of easements and right-of-ways for waterfront access. And the special site on, within the Gorge Village, presents an opportunity for slightly taller building heights to allow for flexibility in redevelopment and to provide a variety of housing forms and housing choices. Also encourages active commercial frontages, mid-block connections, and an opportunity to create a visual gateway to Gorge Park. Moving on to climate adaptation and environment. So Saanij's strategic and long-term plans, like climate plan, urban forest strategy, biodiversity conservation strategy, these plans include policies for climate adaptation and mitigation. And these plans provide coordinated vision and policy direction for protecting and maintaining and enhancing the district's urban forest and biodiversity. So the Tillicum Burnside Plan builds on existing plans, such as mentioned previously, like urban forest strategy and biodiversity conservation strategy, by aiming to preserve and strengthen the natural areas, addressing gaps in parks and tree canopy coverage, and identifying opportunities to protect the unique ecological assets. We do have some plan that is in process. For example, the Gorge Coastal Flood Adaptation Plan. This is in progress, and it will include a technical study to evaluate the flood hazards to better understand the site-specific risk from a sea level rise. And municipalities along the Gorge Waterway are working together towards development of this strategy. We also have Colquitt's River floodplain mapping, which is in progress as well. And this is a partnership with Saanij, Victoria, and CRD. assessing environmental, watershed, and flood-related management planning to help inform the future land use planning objectives. So the outcomes of these projects that are underway will be considered in this plan as well. There are three watersheds within the boundary of Tillicum Burnside area, namely Cecilia Creek, Gorge Waterway, and Colquitt's River. The plan recognizes that these are critical, highly urbanized drainage basins that discharge into the Portage Inlet and Gorge Waterway estuary. So this plan guides the development practices in the Tillicum Burnside area to mitigate any negative impacts on these watersheds. And Gorge Waterway is a key asset and is included within the Victoria Harbour Migratory Bird Sanctuary. So in the mapping, so this is the habitat network map that you see on the screen, and you see to the south along Gorge Waterway, that's the Migratory Bird Sanctuary. So this map further informed the Tillicum Burnside analysis by identifying areas of biodiversity sensitivity within the plan and guiding future land use designations. Some of the policies that we have is ensuring all developments provide necessary setbacks from Colquitt's River to support floodplain management. And we also have a policy ensuring developments adjacent to Cuthbert Homes Park and Colquitt's River is context sensitive, has enhanced setback, enhances connections to natural areas, and provides a welcoming and private-public interface. Moving on to the park's open space and community facilities. So as the area grows and densifies, parks and open spaces should be protected, expanded, and enhanced to support the livability, climate resilience, and quality of life for residents. The draft plan aims to improve parks, open spaces, and the canopy cover, and improve access to both active and passive recreation within the study area. And one of the goals is to maintain or increase the 20% canopy cover within the Tillicum Burnside area. Some of the policy highlights are we have policy prioritizing public realm, public and privately owned accessible open spaces, seeking opportunities to acquire lands for neighborhood parks, encouraging conversion of unopened right-of-ways into a future public open space or pocket parks where feasible, securing public amenities including plazas, parks, and playgrounds as part of redevelopment. One important fact about transportation and mobility is that when these networks are designed to prioritize safety, accessibility, and convenience, it leads to improved health outcomes and greater opportunities for social connectivity. And the design of these street networks often play a substantial role in our daily choices and how we move around within the community. So the draft plan policies are guided by the SANISH plans and policies, including the active transportation plan and the mobility priority pyramid within that plan, and then the road safety action plan, which includes Vision Zero. The policies and the draft plan create clear and targeted guidance for each of the corridor individually. Tillicum and Burnside roads are expected to gradually transform into complete streets that better support active transportation and that offers infrastructure that is designed for all ages and abilities. Burnside Road is identified as a priority for safety improvements within the Road Safety Action Plan. And one thing to note is that Tillicum Burnside is one of the most transit-connected areas in the Victoria region. So Tillicum and Burnside Road are designated primary corridors in the OCP and is part of the frequent transit network. Gorge Road is already part of the frequent transit network, and through this plan, it has been designated as a primary corridor. The SANISH Road Safety Action Plan identifies multiple intersections along Burnside Road as a high priority location for improvements. And the Tillicum Burnside Plan offers an opportunity to address some of these concerns that's already identified through the Road Safety Action Plan, but through an actionable policy. Changes such as safer pedestrian and cycling crossing, new traffic signals, road closures, wayfinding, and signage are all included as part of this draft plan. The following illustrates future street design elements that may be implemented over time as redevelopment occurs, funding opportunities becomes available, and partnerships are secured. The accompanying image highlights complete street elements, including vehicle travel lanes, transit priority measures, and one example of that would be dedicated lanes, queue jumps, signal priority, etc. All ages and abilities cycling facilities, safe and accessible sidewalks, public realm improvements such as retaining mature tree and adding new trees and plantings. Together, these elements will support the long-term vision for the three corridors with designs adapted to each corridor's unique context and redevelopment opportunities. Detailed cross-sections will be evaluated and developed for each transportation corridor through a future transportation planning and design process, supported by technical analysis and stakeholder engagement. Policies within the draft plan are catered to address the unique challenges to each of the corridor. As you see on the screen, there's two timelines. So we have timelines for approximate timelines for Burnside Road West work, and then an approximate timeline for Gorge Road West from Tillicum Road to Harriet Road work. One thing to note is that for Burnside Road West, the timeline shown here is based on current understanding of the BC Hydro construction schedule and may be subject to change. Some of the other key policy highlights is the beautification of Tillicum and Burnside. So through the implementation of this plan, there are opportunities to explore funding options for beautification projects along Tillicum Road near the mall site and along Burnside Road. Davin Street closure. So in the draft plan, we have policy supporting the closure of north end of Davin Street, south of Burnside Road, to vehicular access. And this is to facilitate an urban square plaza through future site redevelopment. We also have Maddox cycling connection, which is basically we have a policy considering Maddox Avenue West and Aurelia Street for inclusion in the bicycle network during the next active transportation update. This provides alternative routes parallel to major routes, which was something that we heard from phase 2 engagement. Seaton Underpass, again, a policy that supports improvement to the Seaton Street Underpass as a potential project during the next update of the active transportation plan. And the intent here is to create a safe, accessible, and enjoyable connection for walking and cycling. Tillicum Highway Crossing, the policy is to work with Ministry of Transportation to explore options to improve the active modes crossing at Tillicum Road and Highway 1, including a grade separated connection. Capel multi-use path connection supports opportunities to provide mid-block public space and pedestrian connection next to Capel Street as part of the redevelopment within the Burnside Village. Moving on to implementation, there's different types of implementation. We have district-initiated implementation, privately initiated. So some policies from the plan can and will be initiated by the District of Saanich after adoption. And district implementation will focus on public realm improvements such as road improvement, creation of greenways, and new public squares, parks, or green spaces. Implementation will depend on other planned works such as BC Hydro work on Burnside Road, council approval of budgets, etc. Whereas the privately initiated implementation will be incremental over time, depending on the redevelopment. One thing to note, as I have explained in the previous slide, is the adoption of the Tillicum Burnside Plan will not change the zoning of any properties. So changes to zoning would be considered when a property owner initiates redevelopment. And if a property owner chooses to redevelop, then they would move through Saanich's development approval process, which includes rezoning, development permit applications, etc. And then those applications would be evaluated for consistency with district policies, such as this draft Tillicum Burnside Plan, OCP. And then Monitoring and evaluation. After the adoption of this plan, an implementation plan will be developed that will include key implementation tasks, timelines, and resource implications. And then this plan will be monitored based on outcomes and updated periodically every 5 years. So why is this plan necessary when you already have an OCP? So Tillicum Burnside Plan is necessary to bridge the gap between OCP's overarching goals and site-specific land use and policies within the Tillicum Burnside area. So in the absence of this plan, future growth and change in the community will be largely unplanned. As a result, a variety of housing choices, future parks, gathering spaces, new connections, commercial spaces will not be identified or may not be realized. This plan will serve as a decision-making tool for staff, the public, interest holders to guide how the Tillicum Burnside neighborhood grows and adapts in the next 30 years. So this plan, coupled with the OCP, will guide the council when making decisions about zoning and future developments. Residents, developers, businesses, community groups can use this plan to learn about where and how the future growth may occur. The TBP will act as a tool to generate interest in redevelopment over the years and to secure funding for short, mid, and long-term improvements in the area. So this detailed policy directions that is laid out in this draft plan ensures that future developments in this area will be upheld to a higher quality of urban design and support safe and accessible mobility networks, a diversity of housing options, and a wide range of public amenities that reflect the community's needs and values. And what happens if we don't have this plan? Again, TBP is a policy framework that guides the land use, transportation, housing, parks, and infrastructure investments within the Tillicum Burnside area. Without a plan like this, it is difficult to clearly signal where and how much we plan to grow, which creates a lack of direction and planning for infrastructure and facilities investment. As explained in the previous slide, in the absence of this plan, future growth and change in the community will be largely unplanned. So we're almost at the end of this overview of the draft Tillicum Burnside Plan. Next steps, we have a couple of public engagement activities planned in the next few weeks to receive feedback regarding the draft plan. The survey is live and open until July 13th. Please feel free to reach out to us via phone or email if you have any questions, comments, feedback regarding the draft plan.